was impressive.
I also noticed that Ken bought a microphone because he wants to be like me.
And I bought a wireless headset today.
Wow.
No
Apparently, Black and White Podcast is brought to you by spending money. By nothing else other than just going out. And I looked at Jess when we bought this TV today, and I was like, that's a pretty decent deal. Do we want to blow some of our savings on that? She's like, is that what we're blowing our savings on? I was like, it could be worse.
Yeah, you chose spending money today over everything else. But.
Well, the other thing is we spent some money yesterday. I had to get some new shirts and shorts because apparently I'm a growing boy, or our washer and dryer is shrinking a bunch of my shit. But I wash with cold water, so it's weird. I don't know, but we had to do that. But I was like, at least we're not spending our savings on like a car or something that we've crashed and we got to get repaired or some shit. So
anything that doesn't appreciate with value, I don't seek to own it. Like my car is leased. I will not try to own a car.
Really?
Yeah. At 70,000 miles, I'm taking it back and getting a new one.
Yeah, but okay. So with cars, that's fine. So ownership, I guess that's a good place to start on a podcast. Especially with two men of minority descent. Ownership. Do you believe that ownership is important, or is it on its way out?
Oh, this is a good one. Go ahead, Bern. I got it.
In terms of
anything, because there's less people buying houses, less people getting into the stock market, less people buying cars, more leases, right? Because the number looks lower for a payment. I would definitely say there's less small business ownership, right? They're getting priced out by bigger companies. People are willing to hand over things to Amazon, FedEx, or UPS, right? We don't even like the government issued mail delivery system. A lot of cars, again, like I said, people would rather lease a Mercedes so they can have a Mercedes because the payment is $300 a month rather than being financially savvy, trying to own it, which I get depreciation, but I'm saying it seems like even in psychological culture now, people don't want to own their shit. People don't want to own up to what they do. They don't want to own cars, houses. They want everybody to kind of like, even you have like Apple Music and the sharing platforms and whatnot, like you pay per month because the number's lower, but then they say like, oh, you'll get a discount if you pay the full year's price. People are like, nah, fuck that. I'm not giving you $100 right now because I don't want to. I'd rather give you $4 over the next, month for the next 12 months, which add up to practically the same thing, except that I'd get like a 10% discount. So I think ownership is down. What do you guys think?
I love owning. Maybe because I'm selfish. It's my, mine. It's all about mine. So I'm a big believer in owning whatever it is, owning your home, your business, taking ownership of your life. But maybe that's meta. Maybe that's a little too meta, but
no, do your thing. But I got like a really like academic way of thinking like ownership, because when I was in school, let's get my master's, and we had this question from one of my professors. He was like, so what do you think is the biggest reason why, there's corruption in places, or why slavery kind of was a huge problem? How do you think minorities get ahead now? And he was like, well, he posed a question. He gave us like 4 options. He's like, is it like a function of like being able to vote? Is it having money, or is it owning things? And I was like, oh, I don't know. All of us kind of sitting there, kind of twiddling our thumbs, thinking it through, trying to be quote unquote smart and give them the smart answer. And I thought about it. I came from a sharecropping community, and it tends to be when you own land, you have more power. You kind of got a stake in the game in a way. So the biggest proponent of like lessening corruption or lessening like kind of deterioration of society is people owning land. When you own land, like when slavery was abolished and everything, and people owned land, you had power because that thing was in your name. You had intrinsic value. You had a reason to defend that thing that you have. So,
well, the other part is with ownership of especially either house or land. Those are two of the only things that really ever appreciate over time. So that is for most, whether it be minority cultures or just even like a lower middle class family, owning land and or a house is their only way at generational wealth or accumulating some form of that to whether it be put their kids through college, remortgage their house, do something on a land, sell a piece of land or build something on it to make it worth more. And then you sell your house. Like in Colorado, people are selling their house for almost 75K over market value at just like constant rate. Well, okay, that 75K goes towards mom and dad's credit card bills, a truck, and setting up a college fund all of a sudden. But because people aren't doing that very often anymore and it's getting phased out, yeah, that's why you only have select few people in like inner cities. You see that one house in between two large office buildings and you're like, what happened there? And that person just didn't want to sell out, but everybody else got bought out over time. And now you have cities with that kind of stuff where then people get phased out. I think we talked about that on one of the last episodes, didn't we?
A little bit, just a little.
With like people going into communities like where you want gyms, and it's like, no, people are already being phased out because they've been bought out, and then the only companies that want to come in are building sky rises or apartment complexes.
Fair enough.
I heard something on ownership this morning, and it made me start to think about it more because, I mean, I'm sitting in an apartment looking out. There's a bunch of wonderful stores and apartments and all that stuff out by me, but then like 5 minutes north of me, there are like mega sized mansions. And I think I want to say George Strait and not Toby Keith, some other big country singer. They both have mega mansions out behind us. And then the San Antonio Spurs have a bunch of players that live out there and these huge ass houses. So made me think about it for a little bit. I thought you guys might have a take on ownership.
I mean, have you ever owned a house, Bern?
Yes.
You still own the house?
Yes, we do. Yeah. So it's own a house, own business, and I know this again. I'm just kind of taking this wherever you guys want to take this, but I'm a big believer in owning. It's going somewhere, I would imagine. Yeah. The plans. What does my therapist always saying to me? Land the plane, Bern. Land the plane. So I know it's going to go somewhere, but I'm a big believer in owning your own stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Even Jay-Z said it, right? We don't lease, we buy the whole car as you should. But that's a lyric from a long time ago.
True.
I was gonna say I haven't heard that.
Yeah, but that's me dating myself. That's an old Jay-Z lyric.
Wait, Bern, how old are you?
I'm 41.
Wait, what? For real?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you don't look 41. You do not look 41.
I appreciate that, man. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's starting. You know, it's funny. A couple people say that. I feel it, but you know, I think I've been lucky. I've been in the health industry since March 25th, 2007. I've met some wonderful people. I'm still meeting wonderful people, including you two gentlemen. So we're just taking that train where it goes.
Well, I got called a wonderful gentleman today, so
I know, right?
That is a first.
Men need affirmation too. I was in the line yesterday. We went to a wedding, and I was getting a smoothie with Tam, and he was like, "Man, your hair is pretty cool." He's like, "That's awesome." He's like, "That's really
you got
nice."
A smoothie at a wedding?
I got a smoothie after the mass for the wedding, going into the reception because I didn't eat all day yesterday like a dumb. I did that rope climb sprint workout, and I did not eat before I did it, and I didn't eat for 5 hours after I did it.
I went out drinking on Friday night with my one buddy from the gym just because we haven't had drinks, or we normally smoke cigars like once a month. We'll go to the place right by our place. And first of all, that man can chug beers, like 16-ounce beers, in under 2.5 seconds.
No, that's not healthy.
He did this 5 times.
No, Bern's over there going, that's not good.
But at the end of it, like when we had first got into the bar, I had my first drink, and it was a Godfather, and it was like by the time I finished it, I was like, oh, I haven't eaten.
Oh.
And this is not like a bar that has like actual food and shit. So the only thing I was able to get that was like fine was some chips. And then by the second and third one, we started smoking cigars. I stood up. I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I don't know where I'm going. But there's a seafood place like right across the way. So we went and had like po' boys and stuff. And that's where he just started putting down like glasses of beer. And the waitress would turn around to an empty cup, and she'd started counting. And at one point she goes, all right, this is number 5.
Gotta cut you off.
Can you drink it in front of me so I know how you're putting this down? And then she was like, okay, now I'm slightly more impressed. And so they ended up discussing what the world record is for not beer chug, but like the largest amount of beer in the shortest amount of time. Somebody put down 1 pint of beer. I think it was 1 pint. No, 1 liter, 1 whole liter. It was like a, what do you call it? Like a pitcher, right?
Yeah.
He put it down in under 2 seconds.
Yeah, no.
It's real.
No,
It's real.
no, we're not even gonna. No, but no.
I watched that video, dude.
Bro.
It was like a snake unhinging its jaw and just down.
I gotta stop doing this motion. I did that at the wedding yesterday, and it was like, you probably shouldn't do that. And I'm like, oh, I should do this. Like,
There's a bunch of people doing that at NBA playoff games now. They sit behind the commentator's desk, and they're just kind of like, they just take their hand and they just motion it like that right in front of their mouth. And apparently there was one of like a kid who was probably like 12 years old and did it. And then his mom turned around and saw him while he was doing it and like smacked him.
Jesus.
And it was all on the Jumbotron. That was funny. I like that.
That's a good way to. That's a good way to like segue into the next question. Like, okay, so Bern, who are you? And what
Wait
are you
a second.
Who, no. We're gonna get off of this.
Is Bern getting hit by his mom or
No.
motioning things on camera?
Oh no, my mom knocked the shit out of me. I know that much. She was like, "Don't do that," and I'm like, "I do it again," and she's like, "Pop," and I'm like, "Oh Jesus Christ!"
Fake sucking a dick on national TV. I think your mom would probably hit you.
She would roll over in her grave right now. Like, no, she would be like, "No, don't do that." But Bern, to you, who are you and what are your values? Like, give us the back history of who Bern is, how you became who you are today, what you do today, and just give us the whole thing.
Yeah, how'd you become Bern?
Well, a twinkle in my mother and father's eye, right? I was born in Boston. My parents are from Haiti, and if anything about Haitian culture, most Haitian culture just migrates north. That's why it's like the biggest population of Haitian people is Miami, New York, and Boston. So I was born in Boston, went in high school here, inner city Boston, if you will. Was high school, college outside of the state. I worked in corporate America after college in Detroit, Michigan for a year. I couldn't stand it. And I came back to Boston and I was working out. And at the time I had this girlfriend who was great. And but she said something to me one day. She goes, "You spend more time in the gym than you do with me. You should be a trainer." And
oh, I thought that was going to go somewhere else. I'm sorry, but
no, it's all right.
She was going to go somewhere else with that.
No, it's all right. And I said, "Oh, you're right." And I got all the accreditations. She actually helped me out a lot with the work and the certificates she was to get. And I've been a trainer since March 25th, 2007. And why am I here now? I'm lucky enough to be involved. I've been involved in CrossFit since 2009. And I fell upon, or I shouldn't say fell upon because that makes it sound like an accident. I created the INVICTUSBOSTON Invitational July 25th, 2020. Mm-hmm. And since then, we're on a 3rd season. We've tripled in size every year. And I'm lucky to have Ken as one of the competitors this year, June 19th, 2022. And so I'm going to hype it up as much as possible.
All right. I'm assuming we'll dive into this just for me being the minority on this podcast, like usual. Yes, I'm allowed to say that, even though I'm white. I don't want to hear none of that shit from our fucking listeners.
Wait, when I first met Steve, I thought he was like a touch of something else. Like, I thought there was a little bit of Indian or like Spanish in there.
Why? Because I have a pedo stash?
Yeah, that is the hair.
The hair tends to give it away. I think I've told Ken this. I've had roughly about 4 African-American women who work for the Army in local dining facilities at various locations who have charged me with the question of, son, where do you hail from? And why has your mother not told you that you're part black? I've been questioned, and one of them specifically said, no, your mom's lying because you got some nappy ass hair. And I said, well, I don't know what to tell you. I've done a 23andMe and it doesn't say anything from any Native American tribe, no African American descent. So I don't know. But your date for the competition is June 19th.
Mhm.
Can you go ahead?
You're
Can
correct.
you give me the reason specifically for that date?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I appreciate you giving me the platform. Here's the deal. I work for Invictus Boston. I started CrossFit at CrossFit New England with Ben Bergeron. Ben Bergeron was actually
Good
a
gym.
coworker. I'm sorry.
I said that's a very good gym.
Very good gym, and yeah, every gym I've ever been a part of has been very successful.
Mhm.
And 2020, when the world ended, right? I'm positive people know this. Greg Glassman said something during 2020 that was really racist. And I remember getting a phone call from the owner of Invictus Boston. He called me and he's like, "Hey, Bernsey, like, I hope you're sitting down because Greg Glassman said something racist." And I know you two gentlemen are just getting to know me, but when he said it, I was kind of like, I laughed. I was like, all right, dude, like a rich old white dude saying something racist is like another Tuesday, bro. Like,
Yeah.
this is just whatever. And I was so indifferent that Josh was taken aback, but we never had a conversation. And people always say I'm name dropping. I'm not. At the time, it was in Invictus Boston. I was working with Tola, and Steph Chung works there. So our staff is pretty diverse in general. So when I said it doesn't bother me, Josh had said, "Well, it might not bother you, but you have a bigger name, at least in the Northeast, than you think you do. And we have a pretty big gym. Do you want to do something? I'll call you back in an hour." So in an hour, I sat down with a notebook. I wrote down a competition, soup to nuts for 3 watts, and we launched it. And it's been a train ever since.
Yep.
And really, the only caveat of the competition, the first basis, and it's still the basis, is I don't care who you are or where you're from, just you can't be racist. And
Fair.
you have to, and that can be vague, right? Like, we can't be racist. What does that mean? I don't care what your feelings or political affiliations are, religious beliefs, or sexual orientation, but I do care if you show up to the competition that you treat each other with respect, and it's taken
Fair.
off from there.
Yep.
How like, so I know it falls like right on Juneteenth, that,
Yeah.
So that's more or less what I was getting at.
Yeah, the Juneteenth question. Like, I didn't know that this competition existed. I mean, granted, I've only been doing CrossFit for like 3 years. I'm a baby in the sport and the community. So like, why did you pick Juneteenth? Like, why is that so important?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like there's an art to subtlety, but sometimes there's an art to like hitting somebody over the head with something. So the first year
that
was
date's
July
not
25th.
so. That date is not so subtle. Not anymore, at least.
Not at all, right? So here's what happens. So if our first year was July 25th, and this was a happy accident. I put together a competition in 33 days, right? So everybody comes up to me the day after and says, "Do it again," and I'm like, "Well, that's a lot of hard work." So I got together with a team of people, and we concentrated on certain days. We launched, like, we picked holidays. We launched the qualifier on Christmas Day because most people are with their families and they're looking at their phone, right? We picked June 19th, obviously, for a reason. June 19th is significant. And the truth is, the semifinals are over by June 19th. That's actually usually the week after, like this year, it's the week after all the semifinals are done. So there's no real competition there's no competition between that and the games that will get that high level comparative. So it was chosen for a reason.
Fair. So I want to say, is it for awareness? Is it something, not the competition? Now I'm speaking about the date. There are obviously plenty of white folk who do not, I don't want to say agree or disagree, but they're like, Hayes posts about this very often. Some of it I don't fully agree with. I think that's just, there's certain specifics of that like story and of that time that it makes it seem a little bit worse than I think it actually was. I think it was just mindsets and stuff. But is there something about that date that you're trying to bring awareness by having it on that time?
No, I'm not all about I am about awareness, obviously, but
Yes.
here's the deal. With my mindset, you can't change the world, right? You can only change your lawn, right? You get it. But Greg, it was brought to my door, right? When Greg Glassman said what he said, it was brought to our door. So now I don't have to do something, but I can do something about it because, again, I'm Invictus Boston. I've been in the game for a while. I know what to do, right? Mm-hmm. So now if I make it on, it's more than that date. It's the date is significant, but to have it at that time, and I'm trying to answer this the right way. I'm going to put it on June 19th, and yes, people understand it. It just also happened that June 19th, these last 2 years, are Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Prime competition days. And I do want to make the comp about diversity because when you look at the competition floor out there, okay, I'm going to, sorry.
I know where you're going. Do it. I know
year one, we had 20 athletes, okay?
Yep.
20 athletes, 11 were non-white, okay? Year two, I had 60 athletes, 32 are non-white. And I didn't put up a flag. I didn't do anything crazy. I just called people and I DM'd them. And when I look at competitions and they say, well, it's hard for us to find, different people in our comps. It's not that hard. I did it from Boston with an iPhone 13 and Instagram. You can do it. You can do all the comps can do it.
It is, I will say it is hard to do it on a large scale. The games is different just because of the reach that it has. But the fitness experience, I feel like that's a larger scale competition. While I was there was a healthy amount of diversity, I would say.
The sport's diverse. The sport is diverse, but it's also about feeling comfortable. And I think
it was about feeling comfortable traveling. That was a big thing for a lot of people is when you have to travel to these places. It's payments, it's going all the way out there, finding a place to stay, all that stuff. Some of that is more or less the hard part. But if you're a competitive athlete and looking to constantly compete, that's not the hard part.
It's not the hard part. No, it comes with the territory. I think it comes with the territory. I think at least what I found in my experience of talking to athletes, I think it's when athletes don't feel welcome, and
that is a very big one.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I provide that environment, and I can only speak for my comp. That's it.
Yeah, I had Hayes said something to me because you had DM'd me about the competition, and I was like, man, I don't know, this will be the first individual competition I've ever done, ever. So Hayes brought up a good point to me. We were having a conversation over Instagram, and I got the opportunity to meet him when we did quarterfinals down in Iowa. And well before this, when you had sent me the invite, I was on the fence about doing it. And he was like, why are you on the fence? I'm like, well, one, I got to go to Boston. I got to do this qualifier. And then he said something that stuck in my brain that never left. He was like, you would pay money to go to a Misfit camp, to a HWPO camp, to go to a comp train camp. And those are white-owned camps or competitions. He's like, when have you heard of anybody Black putting out a competition and, people swarming towards it? He's like, you would give your money and your time to all these other competitions and people, that don't represent, the whole of the culture, not putting anything, not talking down about them.
Yeah, they're not being racist by it, but they're not being specific in their audience.
Yeah, and he was like, what makes this one different? And I was like, you know what? You got a fucking point, man. I felt ashamed of myself to a certain degree. I was like, man, I didn't really pay attention to how little, minorities there were on these big stages doing these things. I know Tola, I know Chandler, and that's it. And Hayes.
And then there's me.
And then there's Steve. But I'm not narrowing my view to only the people that I know. I started looking and digging, and I couldn't find any. I go to CrossFit's page. I'm going to do this. I do this every episode. I'm going to do it right now because it is very, very near and dear to my heart and important.
I've actually seen you do this. Yes.
Yeah, you've seen me do this, and I'm gonna do it right now. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
There's only two of us.
Yeah. White. Nothing against CrossFit, but white.
Yeah, fuck them kids in that picture too.
Yeah, they're all fuck the kids.
Fuck them kids.
And then you get to the bottom, you see. There's Chandler, and then there's where's
Hang on,
Tola
it's
in there?
not. It's barely scrolling on my thing. All right, it just
There's
caught up.
and then there's Tola. I don't even know what race Tola is. He's like half of something and half of something else. But like,
He's a cool race.
yeah, but like, and this one random, assume black lady. You know, there's not a lot of black people on that stage, and I brought the question of when will we see somebody of color on the podium?
Well, the
Not
problem,
that because we're working hard, we're doing all the things. Well, why don't we get the sponsorships? Why don't we get this, that, and the third? You know?
well, I would say if I had to talk between like Invictus Boston sounds like a terrific competition that doesn't exclude anybody. It offers an inclusive environment. But again, I think this goes all the way back to one of our first few episodes where I discussed the inclusion aspect and the fact that it wasn't in inner cities and that kind of stuff. I think CrossFit had a bad rep for a long time. And unfortunately, only white people are crazy enough to do shit that has a bad rep a lot of times. Sorry, but right, like yoga. Yoga was a big white people thing. Everybody else is like, that's just dumb. Just stretch. Then white people are like, all right, we're gonna fucking make it hot. We're gonna put goats in it. We're gonna fucking get cats and all this other horse shit. And then they made it very pricey, so it priced out a lot of people. But I think CrossFit is something that the reason why you see a predominant white field, right? Obviously, you deal with Europe, Iceland, a lot of those other countries, but especially in the US, I think it's up and coming, and you guys are doing a lot, especially the people that we've had on the podcast, some people we haven't had on yet, but there is a rising tide that's probably going to affect CrossFit the way it did the NFL and major sports. There's going to be an influx of black athletes here in the next 5 to 10 years. And we're probably going to have a problem, Ken, at some point where this whole, it might not be a problem, but it would be a whole flip of this situation. The podium is going to be nothing but black athletes.
Yeah.
And I hope that does happen at some point. That would be amazing and fantastic in a way of like almost like the Olympics where you have a podium of nothing but black athletes. The women's side, I don't know so much about that just because it depends on how much influx you get. But like Chandler Smith, no offense, his form is god awful. I don't know if he'll ever get to the podium.
So
for that, unless there is literally a games where like 10 out of the 13 or 14 events are just literally move shit from one place to another and do it very quickly and like fast.
Grunt work.
Yeah, nothing but grunt work, right? I don't know if he'll hit that yet. But I don't know where it necessarily leads in the point of, I don't think that the black culture thought that CrossFit was a bad idea, but I think price point, I think a bad rep. And I think the fact that, you know what, there's not a lot of gyms at that time out in just like inner cities or on the outskirts where there's a large predominant black culture. But I would say that is definitely changing currently. And so maybe give it 5 years.
What do you think, Bern?
So I have a couple of things on that.
Go ahead.
First, and I know I get it. I know, and because I'm friends with him and I'm biased towards him, and he knows that, meaning I love him. The first black athlete that's gonna hit the podium is Tola. He's on a team this year. He's crushing it. He's come close to hitting the podium 4 years in a row, team-wise, including with Invictus Boston. So now he's in Iceland. I don't want to put pressure on him, but he's going to hit the podium this year. So he'll be the first black athlete on the podium. So it's not 5 years away. It's probably this summer.
Okay, I was talking more individual, but yeah.
Yeah, I trust me. I understand what you're saying. Second, the other thing is I think that it's I know everybody, even with CrossFit, I think, and I respectfully say they made a mistake. Everybody's like, oh, we got to go to the inner city and get these gyms popping off.
Yeah.
No, not really. I think if you make the reach, I mean, I'll use Ken for example. When you say you're a baby in the game, and I'll use actually Ken and Melanza. They say they're a baby in the game. These guys are 3 years in, and they're tossing up over 300 pounds on cleans on a daily basis.
Let me tell you, white people don't do that. We don't have that gene, man.
I know you're being funny and facetious, but I don't think it's about white or black. I think it's just exposure to all athletes.
Yeah, it's very true.
New. Fitness is not new. Fitness is not a new thing. Fitness is there's parts of Asia where they teach you Olympic lifting at 3 years old. Same thing in Africa. Fitness is not a new thing. I am fully confident that Oz, right? When we went to the Wizard Route, we went down the Yellow Brick Road. We found out that Oz specifically was racist.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Akinwale was a 3-time games athlete. She refuses to say the word CrossFit ever again. She should be heralded. If there's a CrossFit Hall of Fame, she's in it. CrossFit did a bad job, and that's a long way. I'm going to land the plane. CrossFit did a terrible job, and I'm going to run a competition that just tries to do a good job, and I want to make it so big that it can't be ignored, and that's the goal.
Yeah, like yelling it out at the top of the rooftops. Like I always go to the point, and I had Jared Anderson told me this. I always told him, I was like, man, I wish I had started early. He's like, nope, don't say that. He's like, you start where you start. He's like, give it the best effort you can while you can. And kind of turning sideways, I look at it and I go, man, I put up a total this year that was 1,400 and some odd pounds. And, you know, I checked it. I didn't know until this morning. I checked it and I was like, man, Royce Dunn was 1,250. That's it. And I was like, man, what the heck is happening? And I look at it and I go, we're having this exponential growth of like people getting noticed doing these things and, you know, doing greatness. And I know as a kid, I never would have picked up a basketball if I had never turned on the TV and saw Michael Jordan or Kobe, or even my cousins that moved from Chicago that said, hey, how about you come play basketball with us? I was like, what? Like, I don't know what that is. And I picked up basketball and I didn't stop for 8 to 10 years. I just didn't stop. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be good at this. I'm going to prove to myself that I'm capable of doing these things, capable of doing these hard things. And we look at it in the Black community and we go, you know, you either play basketball, you sell drugs, or you rap your way out of the hood. And those are the 3 things that I grew up with. And I chose none of them. I just went to school. I played basketball a little bit and paid for college, and then I joined the Army. Got an engineering degree, joined the Army, and
still made a bad decision.
And I still did make a bad decision. But I want somebody. I want Chandler or Hayes or Jalen, for that matter, or Tola, to stand on that podium as an individual. So all of these kids that are minorities, Chinese, Asian, Black, Hispanic, look at it and go, man, he did that? That's possible.
I'm very surprised that there's not more representation at the games level of Asian Americans or just Asian people in general. Like, there are incredibly strong people in that entire culture. And it's just, like he said, like they teach it in most, if not all, like Japan did it too when I was there. There were just people in our rec center that they specifically, the only reason why we had bumper plates and like Olympic lifting pads, none of the Americans were using them until I think I did and a couple other people did. It was all the Japanese nationals working on post. The women, the men, they would all come in there. They would do a snatch complex, a front squat maybe, and then some clean and jerks every day. And that was their rhythm. They all walked in with the Nike Romello 2s, every single one of them. They all had a belt. They all had spandex pants. And they would weight lift and then they leave. And they were phenomenal at it.
I want to make sure we're on. I want to point something out. It's not. I don't. Not. It's not. It's not black and white. It's not all black and white. I love the name of your show.
Thank you for the promotion. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I'm pretty good. I'm good at this. Sometimes I'm good at this. So here's the deal. And where I live in Boston, it's the most colleges per square capita. Well, what does that mean? You get people from all academia, money, and athletics do not discriminate. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you get people from all walks of life, and they stay here. Some of them stay here from med school, maybe have a startup, what have you. There are people that are good from CrossFit from everywhere in the world. Yes. So I've had classes where it's 2 white people, 2 people from India, 2 people from Japan, and 3 black people, and they're all good at CrossFit. My point is this: the sport does not reflect what I see on a daily basis. Yes. And I know we keep thinking, we always, I was told this, we say tip of the spear. We're like, well, we got to get somebody black on the podium. We've got to get this on the podium. I think we start on all competitions, local, teens, masters. It's more diverse than you know. And I know that everybody looks at the games, but the games is a poor representation of what I see on a daily basis.
Well, that was
And
who's it? Sean Woodson a few years ago said, people are often scared of CrossFit because they see the games, and the games are not CrossFit.
Yeah.
and games, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Ken.
No. Like Greg Glassman said that like the games weren't his focus. It was CrossFit as a whole.
And people were pissed when he said that.
Yeah, I'll give him his due diligence. Like he said that, and it made total sense. And the biggest part of the community is just people that go in to try to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
They want to do something that's kind of competitive. They have a job. They work a 9 to 5. They want to come in and do something fun that feels like a community.
Yeah, you have your CEOs next to your janitors, next to your teacher, next to the college student.
Yeah.
Right. All the way down the line, even down to like the gyms. There's a lot of gyms that are doing the CrossFit Kids. They're doing the CrossFit for like high school kids. It is, the methodology is pure, and that cannot be corrupted unless you have a corrupt person, which absolute power corrupts. Or
Corrupts, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. Brain fart. I have pregnancy brain. It's transmitting from Jess to me. So I think something like this is where you start to see who the actual people are that are in the sport, that are in your gym.
Mm-hmm.
Our gym currently that I'm at is currently going through a change of management, or ownership, I should say. And our head coach is becoming the owner, and she has changed some things around the gym just to make it look better, right? There's more ropes, there's a new rig on its way, there's flags up and all this other stuff, and it looks better. But one of the other things she's doing is she's bringing, I think this is my personal opinion, I don't actually know this like out of her mouth, but I think she's channeling down some of the coaches, right? She's cutting off some of the fat. She's going from coaches, coaching for a membership, and rather some of them will now just pay, and she'll pay you every time you do coach, because she's trying to get an influx of money. This is how I would see it as a business person: get an influx of money, reinvest in the gym, get more people into the gym for the fundamental classes, right? But what she's also doing after she does that is changing the programming to include like rope climbs, GHD, few more ring muscle ups rather than just regular bar muscle ups or pull-ups. We're scaling back on the amount of scalable movements to not push people in a bad way, but motivate people to start progressing faster, because that is the whole term of this. Is once you have a good solid base, those people should continue to come back to progress. They should not come back just to stay stagnant or just to, maintain. Some people do that, but that's why you offer like a fundamentals class or something that's different. And that was one thing that when I talked to her recently and she started telling me all those things, I was like, that makes sense on a financial, a business, and then a programmable level, to where you're trying to get your base people that you build your gym off of to rise up a little bit higher. And then you can then either make a gym bigger, or you just have more of an outreach because now there's more people doing better overall. So hopefully, I sincerely, I hope that this competition starts to do that for you guys, and you guys start to see that there are more competitive athletes out there that aren't just the people that are at the games. And that's to the people who are listening.
Oh, well, so I'll say something. Now, I was wondering where you're going with this. I want to make sure this is perfectly clear. I get this question a lot, and it's a dope question, or something similar to this. And if I misspeak, let me know. People always ask me, like, what's the elite? If you could have any elite comparator, who would you have? And my answer is, I have star athletes. I am very happy with the athletes I have. So what I mean by that is, I'll actually use Ken. I know you're on here, and I don't want to. I can tell you're a humble person, but I'm going to.
No, don't worry. He has brags all the time on this goddamn thing.
I think Ken's story is incredible. Like, people are like, "Oh, you should get more elite athletes." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I told him off camera. I'm sure you saw this too, Steve. Ken just put up some silly numbers at the occupational games. To me, Ken's the star. To me, like when people show up. So I will say, so everybody's on the same page. We have basically a weekend, June 18th and June 19th, and we'll live stream it. So, because this is a big competition, and what I mean by big time competition, it's not your local competition. If you're at the podium, you get money. Okay, so we're gonna have stars show up. Ken's the star. Milan's is a star. I mean, For a guy like that, you've had him on the show. For a guy like that to clean the way he does, to move the way he moves, he's a star. I've had over the last 3 years, and people, I don't know, you can call it bragging, whatever you want. I've had over 20 years of games athletes either competing or helping out at this competition. Lindy Barber's there, Kelsey Keel's there, Tola's there, Steph Chung is there. And yes, it's because it's Invictus. We have a lot of people, but everybody there is a star. So I'm not worried about getting more elite comparators because I think we have elite comparators there. Their story just hasn't been told.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. 100%.
But there's a lot of people whose stories won't be told over time, and that's perfectly okay. It's more or less, it depends on if you can get the overall involvement from all those communities and even the people whose names will not be remembered forever. It just grows the culture, which then over time turns into what we all want.
Like my prerogative isn't to get like, I mean, it would be nice to be paid to work out for a living, but my prerogative is to essentially leave something like stewardship, leave something behind for the next dude or dudette that comes across and goes, man, this seems really hard. I don't think I can do it. You can. You really can. Like, I can at least say that when I walk into CrossFit Decimate, that's a wonderful place. And I met Alex Escueda. He was like, oh, you're here? You coming in for class? I'm like, yeah, my roommate drugged me in here. I don't know what to expect. I couldn't overhead squat a barbell or a PVC pipe. And now I can, do ungodly things with a barbell and some weights. And I attribute that to, him taking the time out to, no, but I'm just saying, I'm saying, giving him he gave me the opportunity to try and fail. And I think that's one of the biggest, stepping stones of this. I think that most people look at CrossFit and go, oh my God, this is so difficult. I don't want to try something that hard. But the amount of rewarding feeling you get from doing that thing that's really hard and not necessarily winning or doing extremely well, just the fact that you did it, you tried it, makes all the difference because someone's always watching you. There's some kid in the back whose parents are bringing them here and they see you walk in and they go, man, that dude looks like he is having a rough go at it. And he kept going and finished it. That kid's going to go, oh, he struggled at doing bar muscle ups, and he kept doing it, kept trying and got it. Why can't I do that with other dimensions of my life, other realms of my life? That kid maybe fell in math and they go, you know what? If I read a little bit more and I try hard, I probably can do this. I probably can pass this class. So that is why I do it. It's not to gain anything from it. It's to tell a story so that someone can read that story like we do. We read history books and we go, man, this dude or this woman did this. Why can't I? The saying comes in my mind that I learned this in Q course, well, in SFAS. One of the instructors came to me. I was like having a hard time. It was a log day where you watch the 14 Days of Hell or whatever it is that was on Discovery Channel. He walks up to me, he sees me like struggling. He comes up to my ear and he goes, someone lesser than you has done this before. Why can't you do it? And I was like, holy crap, that's insane. I probably should think like that about everything. So,
I think it depends on what your definition of a lesser man is.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes you a good person, and I love that. You want to, you're trying to do this so somebody can be inspired by you. And I'll say this from a professional standpoint. I also I love that, and I do have some of that in me, but I also have the thought process of financial gain, meaning. I started in Ben Bergeron, and people always like, "Oh, well, you do the CrossFit for the love of fitness." Bergeron's
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, Bergeron's a millionaire. I work for Invictus. CJ Martin is a millionaire. I promise you that. And my point is that these people compete, and they're like, "I just do it for the love of the game." I'm like, "No, CrossFitters should get paid. These athletes should get paid." Steve, you said something about your gym, people coaching to pay off their membership. And I see that all the time. And maybe I'm spoiled. I've been doing this for 10 years. I get paid and I should get paid. And no one ever says they're overpaid. Coaches are underpaid. Coming from a coach that gets paid, if that makes sense. The sports, the community, hasn't tapped its full potential. Your CrossFit
No.
coach, who's in charge. I have a hedge fund manager. I have a 19-year-old student. I have a business owner, and I have a doctor that's tired, all in my class. And I have to have the prerequisite intelligence to connect to all of them and make them move in all one way. That's the same thing I feel about these athletes. They're raising, I'm sure you've seen it. They're doing GoFundMe so they can go to these competitions.
Yeah.
These athletes are underpaid. My goal, my number one goal, is to bring diversity in the sport. My second goal is to bring money into the sport, because if you bring enough money, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know how to say this without sounding arrogant. If you bring enough money to the sport, they don't care. They don't care who's in charge.
Money talks and bullshit walks.
Yes.
Once you put up that post about if you win this 1K row, you get $2,500 in cryptocurrency, I was like, oh, I'm gonna sell my soul for that. Like I'm gonna get off. You're gonna see me come off that rower, Bern, and you're gonna have to unstrap my feet because
I'll be a grown man crying.
I'm gonna be crying
for $2,500.
So isn't that is so interesting? I'm glad you brought this up because I want to make sure everybody understands this about crypto. And I think this is one of the questions you guys sent me, right?
Oh, did we?
Yeah,
I
think yes, I was asked about it. Either way, not to say how the sausage is made, but I know I was asked about it, right? So I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So Gym Wallet had approached me, and they're a great company. It's for me, this is a new realm for me because my goal is to raise the purse for the athletes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The owner of Gym Wallet, he has a genius idea. He wants to eliminate human error at competitions, right? So like squat depth, chin over bar, there could still be some room for error. So his concept is what doesn't make any mistakes, the machine in general. So you know how you can set the rower to count down to 1,000 meters to the 0.2.
Yep.
So we're gonna have 1,000-meter row. You are right, for $2,500 for the males, $2,500 in crypto for the females. So the way it works is simple. If you connect your wallet to the rower and everybody rows, and at the end, let's say, I'll use Steve, you for example. Let's say you row an absurd time. Let's say you row a 240, 1,000-meter row. Automatically, what should happen is the crypto goes directly to your wallet, right then and there.
Yep.
So I'm excited that. To me, that's exciting. Now, I will say this, and I'm saying this right now, so everybody's on the same page. We're experimenting with, and I'm leaning towards opening that up to the top 5 only.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is, first off, it's only 30 competitors. There might be less than 30 males. So, just like CrossFit, you have to pay to play, right? So I want somebody to earn that. That's why it's the last walk. I think you should earn that opportunity. So I don't have some collegiate rower enter the comp, finish dead last.
Got you. Very smart. Very smart.
So this is me I'm saying this out loud because we're still, let's say this, my team and I are discussing the best way to do this, is my point. But I'm excited about that. And I'm excited about all the things that's going to happen. So,
Let me drop an idea on you real quick. I'm sorry.
Right before you do that, who is the team that helped you create all this? Who are those people?
Oh yeah. So when I say a team, this is all without getting in the weeds, I'll get in the weeds. The first year I did the competition, there was no money involved. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody goes, do it again, because it was so great. We were I can say this proudly. In 2020, we were one of 3 competitions in the world that had spectators on a live stream. Okay. So everyone says, do it again. It was fun. And I'm like, this is hard. So I created my own LLC. I have my own company. It's probably, you can see Freedom Family Future LLC. Okay. Mm-hmm. Why I created my own company, it's funny you talk about ownership, is because when somebody asked about the Invitational, I had INVICTUSBOSTON Invitational. I love the people I work with, but I had too many checks and balances. I'd have to be like, can we get the sponsor? And it didn't work for my lifestyle. Yeah. So I decided to be the head honcho, if you will. So when I see my team, it's truthfully my coworkers and my friends that help me with ideas. So I'll say, like, I see life through my own prism, and I'll say, "Ooh, I got this company that's going to give me $5K in crypto."
Okay.
And then I go to my family and friends and my coworkers and I say, what do you think? Well, we got to make sure that the last place person doesn't win 2,500. So blah, 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 blah. So that's my team, my close friends.
Yeah.
I
Go
hope
ahead,
that
Steve.
answered the
Oh,
go
no,
ahead.
it did. It did. It made sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So then my question is,
Mhm.
and this is more of a concept, not necessarily a question.
Yeah.
If you're even pandering to any ideas of what, like the way to get a bigger purse, and I don't know how exactly this would work, but you got to pay to play, right? It costs
Mhm.
money to run a competition, pay
Yes.
maybe some of the vendors or some of the other things that go on. So I understand you're trying to at least stay in the green, right? But definitely not going in the red, or you'd prefer
Mhm.
not to. Imagine like the same way if Ken and a bunch of our friends come together and we put a pot together for fantasy football, right?
Yes.
Imagine if you used, what is it, Jim Wallet, right? If everybody who competed put in a certain amount of money into a pot, and then based off your positioning and like how you win, if you come in first place, you get the largest of the sum of all that. You still split it between everybody, right? But say like dude comes in first out of 10, he gets $100. Dude in last gets $10, right? And then imagine with that system, or at least how it sounds, right? It can fluctuate, and you get money for every placement that you get, right? Imagine if that's how you got paid out, right?
Yeah.
Rather than just be like, hey, you got like fifth. That's just a set number that you could earn. Well, if I have to keep paying to play each round or each event, right? And I'm putting all my money in, and then I may lose a whole bunch of money if I perform poorly, or may cash out top. I may take everybody's fucking money.
But then you need a
Okay.
gambling license.
Yeah, Steve, I understand what you're saying, and I'm still, I'm actually open to new ideas because, truthfully, we're literally only in our third year, right? This is our second year doing this for money. So,
but even at like the games level, that would be, you're playing with big boy money at that point.
Right. Well, this is what I found out the hard way. Okay, or I would say by accident. I'll say that. Okay. So everybody talks about diversity. Blah 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 blah. Diversity is behind the scenes as well. So when I started reaching out to companies to try to raise money, the truth is that the path is already set. Meaning, all these CrossFit competitions run the same way. They get a sponsorship deck and they go to said company, and you name the company, Noble, Whoop, and they pitch a deck. Okay.
Mhm.
I found this out by accident because the person, I will leave the company unnamed, but they didn't know I was Black until they wrote the check. Okay. Every big time competition we know pitches a sponsorship deck. So let's just play with numbers. Let's say every time you see a sign, the company has given this Steve's competition or Ken's competition 10 grand. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, when you see that they're sponsored by XXXXX, that's $10,000 a piece. Now, when you go to a vendor village and you see that the vendor that is there selling whatever they did, and I'll use Jeff Evans, for example. Jeff Evans, great guy who was at Wadapalooza, he had a tent to sell his great product.
Yeah.
Let's say every vendor pays the comp $5 grand. They don't get, the comp doesn't pay the vendor to be there. So when you walk around a vendor village and you see 20 vendors at $5K, you can do the math. So my point is
100 grand.
Yes, thank you.
Gee,
so
thanks for the math.
Yes, thank you. My point is there's actually a formula to run competitions. They don't just know, most of these competitions don't run in the red. They actually run in the green.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to say is I'm going to stick with that formula, but I am open to ideas, and that's part of the reason I'm on podcasts. And I want to be as transparent as possible. You know, a lot of people will hear what we're doing, and sponsors will reach out. I'm trying to get as many sponsors as possible. I make no bones about that, because the more sponsors I have, like I'll give you a perfect example. Noble has been great to me. Noble is a great sponsor. Last year we had DraftKings. A big term in the CrossFit right now is non-endemic partnerships. Jim Wallet isn't something like, I think the Rogue Invitational is the only comp I know that had crypto. So something like this,
I don't know why,
is something like this where it's not like every CrossFit competition goes to whoop, no bull, and then they scratch their heads. I want to go to every company imaginable. I mean, CrossFit's shown us. Everybody's like, oh, if you do CrossFit, eat, drink healthy. And what's their biggest sponsor?
Monster. Piece of shit.
Yep.
Hey, listen. I hear you. You can call it what you want, but Monster gives you. If Monster showed up to my door right now, honestly, with a $5 million check, I'm going to get a Monster tat on my neck. So that's what it is. That's what it is.
That's fair.
Well, while everybody's at it, if you're looking for a good sponsor, head over to BlitzBelts. Okay. Talking about sponsors, great sponsorship that we have with them. They are title sponsor. Yeah, Ken's repping everything BlitzBelts. Jesus, you're making me look like a piece of shit over here.
You got a hat?
I do have a hat. It's sad, but I can't wear a hat most times. With a pedo stash, it doesn't look good. And I don't have one of those Velcro things to put one of the patches on my boob. So everybody, if you're looking for a good belt, go over to BlitzBelts. They have an amazing selection of belts. I actually have a buddy who's yesterday was looking at their whole website. They vary anything from, I believe, $48 is the lowest belt up to, I want to say $90 something after shipping and handling. But I have it's a desert camo mixed with an American flag. That one, very sturdy. It's sick. I like it as much as I like the other companies, and I won't mention them because fuck them. This one's very simple. I like the release on these belts. They strap down pretty tight. They have a very good sizing coordination down at the bottom. It goes based off your waist sizes. If you're putting it around the center of your stomach and you have a small waist but a little bit of a gut, put that factor in there. That's what my buddy had to do. He put mine on yesterday and it barely, we had the same exact waist size. I think it's like a 33, and he put my belt on and it didn't fit around his belly, not nearly the way it fits around mine. So size off your stomach, not off your waist.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're done, go over to the boys page on the link tree or on our Instagram, use the code. It gets you some money off. We all need a little bit of money off these days. But yeah, that was a good little transition. That's
pretty good.
We're gonna have to put in some written.
We're gonna have to record something, stick it in there. That's what I've been.
Yeah, that would be much better. That way I can just kind of be like, hey, pause, click. Yeah, so we'll do another sponsor in a little bit when we have a better transition. But head over to blitzbelts.com. Use promo code BAW22 Bravo Alpha Whiskey Dose. That'll get you guys some money off. Sweetness. All right, Ken, do we have any more actual questions that you
sent? I do, but like I have one thing. Why don't you contact Kane Bern from BlitzBelts and ask him if he wants to pitch in?
I love it. You know what? Here's the deal. And
call him Mod Balls.
I'm open to contacting anyone. You know, the funny thing is this: there hasn't been a Zoom call I won't take, and there's not a an email I won't try. Okay, for me, I tell this to you. I probably said this to you, Ken, and I say this to everyone. You know, for what we do, and yes, I'm talking about the INVICTUSBOSTON Invitational a lot, but that's why I'm here, right? Yeah. So my promise I make no promises to the athletes except to give them a platform to show off their hard work, whatever they want to do. Like, you know I've mentioned Melanza a couple of times because he's a friend of your show, and I think he's a great guy. I want Melanza to be Melanza. Does that make sense? Like when he comes to I want him to be.
Oh, don't worry. He will be unapologetically Hayes.
Yeah, he's not changing.
Unapologetic, and I love that. And I want when I look at I've got Jess Donahue, who's a firecracker. I want her to be her. So my point is, I want people to be them. But my job behind the scenes, okay, because I want the comp to be all about the athletes. But my job is to feverishly look for sponsors so they can have the best experience possible. And when I say the best experience possible, if you at the podium and if I give the winner of a comp a bag of coffee, I have not done my job.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, I've been to some.
Is anybody calling Reebok anymore?
I'm sorry?
You said, is anybody reaching out to Reebok anymore?
I've reached out to every CrossFit thing you can think of. And like I
Okay.
said, I don't want to do any footwear because truthfully, cheap plug, Noble's been great to me. I love Noble.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking, and not to be that person, I want to think outside a perfect example. I think to myself, like, I'm not thinking clothing, I'm thinking Gillette, like the shaving company. I'm thinking like, I'm thinking about something bigger than, I'm thinking Tesla.
Okay.
I pitched Tesla. It was unsuccessful, but I pitched them.
That's pretty good.
If you could pitch the CrossFit Games in space, he might be down.
I'm sorry?
I said if you could pitch CrossFit Games in space, he might be down.
Well, I'd do air squats in the moon for the right price.
It would be really easy because
There you go.
gravity. But
Well, that's
Exactly.
just leg extensions at that point.
you were talking like, so most of this podcast has been like how you gain the sponsors, how you like track the money,
A little bit of business side of it.
Yeah, business side of things. So like
Yes.
financial literacy. How did you learn to be so financially literate? And I know that's a big problem in the minority community, or even just in education in general. They don't sit down and teach you how to write a check, do your taxes, pay your bills, things like that, how to balance a budget. So how did you become so financially literate?
I'm so happy you asked that first. So, it's funny. You're like financially literate. I'm like, oh, you haven't seen my bank account. But I will say this. I'll be honest. Training has helped me be financially, at least understand what I'm doing. What I mean by this, I've been a personal trainer now for 12 years. And training is considered an expense that it's not a necessity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a trainer, you have some disposable income. Okay. And I've been lucky enough to train with people. I'll give you one example. Okay. And you're right, Ken, because the way I grew up, I was taught algorithms. Like I can break down a Pythagorean theorem, but I wasn't taught how to balance a checkbook, which is wild. Right?
Insane.
And I've never had to break down a Pythagorean theorem in life after high school, seriously. But that's another topic for another day. I trained a gentleman that was a hedge fund manager, and he refused to pay me in cash. He said, I will pay you, and I will put money into your IRA instead. And he was the first person to teach me about an IRA. I didn't know the different. I didn't. There's IRAs, there's Roth IRAs, there's 401ks, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And he paid me for a year and put money in my IRA account because, as like I said, some people are subtle and some people are blunt. He goes, "You strike me as a kid that wasn't taught how to save money, and I will make you save money." So he paid me for a year in IRA or put money in my account. And since then, I've always been fascinated with. First off, anybody that says like I don't need money to make me happy, I'm like, I hear you, player, but like money makes the world go round. There's certain things.
Fuck out of here with that bullshit. I'm happy as hell, and I just bought that TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. You need certain things and certain things financially that you have to cover, and sometimes I shy away from it, but honestly, like as an inner city kid from Boston, I wasn't taught that. I wasn't taught. My parents just moved to America. They didn't like. They were just like, we're trying to make sure that you don't have dirty underwear to go to high school. Like, make sure you clean your butt. Make sure you look decent. But like, it wasn't about like how do we make another rap quote. How do we make $1 out of 15 cents? Like, we just weren't taught any of that. So I'm trying in my own personal life. And like I said, by accident, I was taught that financial literacy about comps this last year. Because you can run a comp. You too could run a comp right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends on what the goal of the comp is. For me, the goal of this invitational is to be one of the invitationals that everybody talks about every year, whatever that means. So I have to be somewhat financially literate. I'm going to go off a tangent, and I apologize.
No, do it.
This is actually something I've never said out loud. You know what people say to me all the time when I'd say I'm running a competition that promotes equality? They say, what's the charity?
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that. I was like, what philanthropic thing are you giving back to?
But it's funny that they're it's funny to me that when I say, so if you are, I want to make sure, if you are suffering from a certain disease and you can't pay your medical bills and there's a GoFundMe, that is awesome. That makes sense. That's a charity. That's an affliction. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Equal rights isn't an affliction. Like it's crazy to me. Like I shouldn't have to say it's so racism is such a hot button that people think it's a sickness. I'm like, no. All I want to do is walk into a room with Ken and Steve and be treated equally.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need I don't want this. This is like I'm running competition. There's not like like I'm running competition, and you come to me and you say, "What's the charity?" Like Ken's not a charity. I'm not a charity. All I'm saying is I want to be treated fairly, and I guess that's a long way of saying it. I hope it's coming across the right way. It's so bad sometimes that people look at not being white as a sickness, and that blows my mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's crazy because you can't control the things you can't control. Like I can't control that I'm black. I can't control that I'm tall. I can't control that I'm, me. I have certain characteristics that make me, but, and going back to what you said about racism, like, do you think we all know it's a problem? It's an issue. So is it solvable?
I'd like to say it is. I mean, I don't know. It's something that I felt my whole life, and I don't have to say it. Like it's when sometimes you see it when I see somebody, if I never met you and I saw you out, I'd probably just say, I'm happy that he's alive, because some of the stuff you've probably gone through in your life is gross. And I don't want to harp on it because it can sound sad, but sometimes I look at somebody, I'm just happy you made it. Is it solvable? I hope so. And this goes back to my original point. I can control one thing. On a weekend, on a summer weekend, I can control that everybody feels good. And I'm gonna start there. Like, same thing for you, Steve. If you show up to Boston, I'd love to have both of you. You show up to Boston, I want you to feel like, hey, Bern wants to get to know Stephen Holt as a person. I want to know Kenya Clark as a person. And if I can do that for 3 hours, I did my job. The rest of the stuff, man, I don't know.
You got enough on your plate.
Yeah.
That's it.
You can't be expected. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Bern.
No, that's it. That's all I had on that one. Yes, sir.
Like, you can't be expected to answer. I wasn't asking you the question to like pretend that you're an expert on it. I'm just saying that if at some point we've all experienced racism. Steve's experienced it. I've experienced it. Bern, you've experienced it, one fashion or the other. And how do we even move forward? Like, how do we take a step forward? And nobody seems to know the answer to that question, because the people that make decisions, lawmakers, all those things, they try to say, oh, don't do this, don't say this bill, don't say that bill, here's,
which all that is bullshit.
Roe v. Wade, all that stuff. Like, that's all fine and dandy, but until you get down to the small microcosm of what all this is and get to the center of these small communities, you're never going to be able to change a thing. I can sit here all day and take a bucket of paint and keep throwing it on the wall, but I'm still going to have spots that I miss because I'm just chucking paint at the wall. I'm not sitting there going, all right, that's an issue. Okay, I got that. I got this spot. I got that spot.
Do you want to know what that problem is? You want to know why you'll never get to the center of it?
Why do you think?
Well, I know.
Why do you know?
I know. It's human nature. Yep. It is undeniable that no matter what in our society, there are cliques, right? I'm not talking about the high school girls at the certain lunch tables and whatnot. We as humans are now pack animals. We all want to be a part of something. The only way you can be a part of something, right, is there has to be an opposite to it.
Yeah.
In everything. Unfortunately, and I wish this was wrong, but in my mind, I'm not saying that racism needs to stick around for forever. And this is a topic I feel like we cover a lot. But the root basis of racism, right, was obviously core fundamental values in groups, primarily started in Europe, because then it got brought over here. where people were like, hey, you don't look like me. I think I look good. I have these fancy clothes. I have money. I have a king. You do not. You are other than me. Therefore, you are the opposite. You are bad. Again, I'm sure plenty of people listening to us, if you've ever listened to Joe Rogan or whatever, they go over it 1,000 times that the reason why human beings always go for the worst, they always talk about the worst, they fear the worst, is because that is the back of your brain over time has developed to, if that's bad, that's what I need to pay attention to because that might kill me.
Yes.
Right? So negative thoughts. Well, again, if something is different than me and I don't understand it, it's negative because in my head, I cannot comprehend what the fuck that is. Therefore, I'm going to treat it negatively. Now, with that, you couple the years and years and decades and centuries of high class or like the, higher majority of people that tell the plebs what to do. And they went around and said, hey, these people that we found and we discovered them, they're here, they're going to work for us. They're other than us, so they're less than us. Now we're going to continue that fashion. Now you put that over a few more centuries, right? And now you get to somewhere around today, right? And you have people who are like, hey, hang on, that doesn't make any sense educationally wise. That man, that woman is no less a man or a woman than I am. I'm not going to treat them differently because I don't want that reciprocated on me through whether it be religion, politics, what have you that makes me different than other people. Because then nowadays we have everybody broken down, gender, religion, politics, what your thoughts on drugs and alcohol are, what your thoughts on pedophilia is, all the way down the line through genders and everything else, right? Now we're all in these sections, and that will always be human nature to section ourselves off, to categorize each other, right? It used to just be black and white. Now it's black, white, Asian, Hispanic, LGBTQ, pedophile, criminal, XYZ, all the way down the line, right? Whether you're a wealthy person, you're a poor person, etc. That is specifically why I think that racism, in a sense, yes, you can teach that it is bad. Good people like us can go around and talk about it, bring awareness to it. You can have somebody like Vern here who is putting together a competition that brings together a spirit of core, brings people together, gives them a good time, right? And doing that for a whole weekend for the amount of people with the eyes that will be on that competition through like a virtual live stream, things like the games, like if they brought it to light in some form or fashion, or if somebody like from, I don't know, CrossFit Nigeria wins an event at the CrossFit Games, huge, right? For the country of Nigeria, for the continent of Africa, for the sport itself. That stuff will always be good, but there will always be people who want to divide other people. And it's so off topic, but if you are ever trying to be divided, or if somebody is ever trying to divide you, this is inevitable. Divide and conquer. It has been around since the beginning of time. If you are a subject or a person who is being divided by somebody else, they're trying to conquer something. Whether it be you as a person, your mindset, your beliefs, your values, that is what they are trying to do. That has never changed, nor will it ever. Because if I sit here and I ask you both a question on, well, do you like the color red or blue better? There's a fucking purpose for that. And I'm trying to divide you, because then if you both say red, I'm like, okay, do you both like the Chicago Cubs, or not the Cubs, the Chicago Bulls, or do you like the Miami Heat? At some point, I'm trying to divide you and get you on opposite sides. Because then at that point, if I want to get Ken to do something that I know Bern won't do, cool, I'm going to start fucking chatting up Ken because he said the Bulls. And then I'm going to start turning him against the other guy. And it's going to continue that way for all of human history. So not to be the Debbie Downer.
No, I don't think you're being the Debbie Downer. Here's the deal.
I think we're fucked.
There's certain things. There's certain things that are positive. And I know these conversations for everybody always goes, let's talk about race. There's people I don't want to talk. I don't like talking that much. Honestly, I can talk, but I don't love it. I think there's people doing certain things in the space right now. Like I know you've had James on. I think what he's doing is wonderful. There's Rashad, who is now going into being an agent.
Yep.
We need to contact him. We need an agent.
Already did.
Yeah. Yes, it's awesome. There's so many people in the space. Even, I mean, on a bigger scale, I don't know how much you follow the Buttery Bros.
Yep.
They have Julian now. They've integrated Julian more in this stuff, and they have. And I apologize because I met him, and I'm going to butcher his name, and I don't want to. Their photographer's black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super great. Like one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. So nice, we almost like, are you always that nice? And I met him. It was unbelievable. I actually got to reach out to him.
They need to come up with an opposite of the Buttery Bros, so that can be Marsden and Heber, and then they're two camera dudes, Julian and the other guy.
Yeah,
and then play off that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I'll say this, that's to me is a positive light. Here's what scares me a little bit, and I actually had a conversation with Janine from the Outward Foundation a little bit earlier. What scares me about the sport, and I'm only talking about the sport, I'm not talking about the world, because that's, and I know what you meant, Steve, but that's just it's almost too big for my simple mind to comprehend.
Yes.
The sport of CrossFit has done a terrible job.
You can say it. It's a fucking terrible job.
Do it. Say it.
Hold on. Oh yeah, with a terrible job with black women. Awful.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth Akinwale, just awful. And that to me, that is actually the biggest thing I've found in these last 3 years is we can get. There's gonna be 30 male athletes. I promise 30, and probably some people that I might need to say no to. I'm not unsure yet that want to compete, but the sport is barren when it comes to black female athletes, and that scares me to death. And that I don't want to say it's my mission, because that'd be solely arrogant, but it's a goal of mine to bring more black female athletes to the sport.
I think that's a big portion, and I don't ever see any black female athletes. There's one on the U.S. Army Warrior Fitness team, and that's all I've ever seen. So, and Elizabeth, and I followed her on Instagram, and I messaged her telling how good of a job she's doing promoting herself and black women. And she actually responded to me. I was like, oh my God. And then I contacted Heber, and contacted him. He was like, hey man, that video was great, and he was like, oh thanks. We should be in Colorado X day. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna try to meet this guy. Never happened because
get him on the pod.
I'm gonna try, but
hog tie his ass.
He responded, but yeah, I think there needs to be more representation, and with their representation comes, more of an impact from us as minorities towards these people. But speaking of minorities, we got a minority sponsored part of the podcast. It's CerusPerformance. I'm going to go ahead and sling them up here real quick.
Ooh, nice transition.
Before we wrap it up.
Yes.
Here we go. CerusPerformance right here, owned by Jeff Evans. We had him on the last podcast.
Good old Jeff.
This is his Instagram page.
Hefe.
Right here. They got flow, focus. Let me go to the site. They got flow, focus, rim, immune, and gut. I take rim before I go to sleep every night. It's like a baby. I take flow before I go to before I do any type of aerobic capacity type workout, or if I do a really, really long metcon. And it makes a world of difference. And all the ingredients and all these things are 100% natural. He doesn't stick anything crazy in them.
If you go back, listen to our last episode with Jeff Evans,
he breaks it down.
He knows every single ingredient off the top of his head without looking at a website or his phone. He's able to articulate it very well. Go ahead, support a minority business, both in size, and it's a small business, and it's also minority owned. So that's a big plus. Go out. These are the kind of companies that I would prefer CrossFit to be going out to. Which I get it. At that scale, you can't just always just reach down and pick one. You could, in a sense, and it'd be like that claw game at old pizza parlors and shit. And you could just pick one out, and I'm sure that it probably has some good qualities to build off of, rather than going to Monster. But head over to CerusPerformance, go to our Instagram page. We have all the stuff there. Or you can just click the link tree. It'll bring you straight to CerusPerformance's website if you're not doing the whole Insta thing.
Yep. And then we have Instacart too. Basically, click this link. They'll bring groceries to your door because when you go to the grocery store, you see things that you want and you spend extra money when you could just.
Well, it's good to see Costco's on there.
Yeah, you could pay somebody to bring it. Wow, they got Costco. Oh my God, I didn't know that. But
yeah, the best plug for Instacart is we all have a lot of shit going on. Most of us are adults. If you're listening to this podcast, I don't think there's any kids. But if there are kids, turn this shit off and get the fuck off my podcast because you're not old enough. But go over to Instacart off our link tree. There's plenty of different things on Instacart where you can order anything you need, whether it be some pharmacy stuff. Now that I know Petco's on there. I get my dog food from there every once in a while just to make it easy on me and the wife. And somebody will bring it to you. It's just like Uber Eats. It's just like Postmates. We think it's better. We're willing to partner with them. So if we're partnering with them, that means that they're doing good stuff for the community. So don't call me a fucking liar. Go to Instacart.
We're not, because I use it all the time. I don't really go to the grocery store anymore. I went to Walmart this morning, got these headphones. That was it. That was the only thing.
Why are you buying shit at Walmart, man? You told me go to Costco. They definitely have those headphones at Costco.
Costco is like 40 minutes away from me.
Let's get a sponsorship by Costco. Huh?
That would be.
And then we'll get Costco to sponsor Invictus Boston's competition. Okay?
Exactly. But Bern, tell everybody where they can find you. Go ahead and just rattle it off for us.
Yeah, sure. They can find me at Bern K Prince. That's my Instagram handle. They can also they can literally email me. I have no issues with that. Bern at INVictusBoston.com. I'm positive I'm easy to find with a name like Bern Prince. They can also, if they want to know what's going on with it's the Invictus Boston. I'm stuttering, and it's the comp I run. It's the Invictus Boston Invitational page. That'll give them all the updates. And anybody that knows me well knows that if you send me a message, I try to get back to you right away. That's perfect. I'll say this. Saturday, June 18th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you can wake up and watch it. There'll be the teams competing. There are only 10 teams, co-ed, male, female. And Sunday, June 19th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., it'll be the individuals. There's going to be exactly 3 WODs, 2 WODs, and a final. And it's not gonna be longer than 3 hours, because that's also a little bit of the secret sauce. Our goal is not to beat up these competitors. We have 3 events, and if 3 hours is all you have, and you go home and you just have a good time. So I'm excited. I couldn't be more excited, actually.
I'm excited too. I'm gonna be down there doing things, picking up heavy stuff. Hopefully there's something else heavy in there. So yeah. But we appreciate you coming on, Bern. Invictus Boston Invitational. Hope y'all enjoyed the conversation.
Yes.
BlitzBelts, CerusPerformance, HeroBarbell Co. All those. Everything will be down at the bottom of the description as well. So
put something down at the bottom of the description as well. If there's topics people want us to start asking these guys about, because we're putting out these preeminent posts saying who we're talking to, tag us in some shit, send it to us, DM us, ask us what you guys want us to talk about so we can help you guys. Then go down, comment below, hit the like, the share, the follow, then unclick it and then click it again and do that 5-10 times just to make sure you did it the right way. Okay. Because I have ADD and it would help.
Hey,
right?
I just want to make sure I say this because I don't want to be rude at all. I appreciate both of you having me on. Steven, Ken, you guys have been great. You guys always contact me, respond back. I think it's amazing. And I'll reiterate a point. Ken, we're our team. Everyone around here is excited to see you throw down. I know it's your first individual comp, and as a star athlete, we just want to make sure that you. And I could care less how you place. I'm pretty sure some of the WODs are already out, but I do want to say that we want to make sure it's the best experience for you as an individual comp as possible. That's all.
If you don't place on the podium, you're not coming back on this podcast.
Dude, don't say that because I probably won't place. Let's be honest.
Shut the fuck up, Jesse. You will.
I'm 230 pounds. It's gonna be hard.
Shut the fuck up. You're gonna be fine. But if you are one of the stars, I think you should go in there with some nipple tassels or something. Really, just blow that competition away.
I don't know. Hey, I said I make no promises. People can be just only promises you can show off who you are. So if that's whatever anybody,
dude, rock a banana hammock on that row.
Hey.
Nothing but a Speedo on that row. Oh, God. Hayes wouldn't be able to pay attention long enough to fucking row. He'd be looking at you making fun of you the whole time. You probably beat him.
Probably. But yeah, let me hit this. Wait.